The private equity industry at the moment needs to reevaluate how it addresses the challenge of Russia. And I think there are two private equity industries. There's the Russian private equity industry, and there's the global private equity industry investing here. And I think RDIF, the Russian Direct Investment Fund, has done a very good job to bridge between Russia and the West investments in direct investments in this country. And they give a lot of confidence to people that the government is with them in these investments. The big issue right now is if you look at political risk, macro risk and micro risk, I think the biggest risk that global investors are facing is the political risk of the geopolitics of Russia at the moment. The second thing, of course, is energy prices, commodity prices, and the impact they have on Russian demand and Russian spending, consumer spending. In terms of the micro, I think the government is trying to do a lot of things to encourage investment and foreign direct investment and local investment. I think, given the current geopolitics, I think Russia has a large opportunity to look east, to look at China, to look at India as it is doing, to look at Southeast Asia, to look at the Middle East as places where it can export, it can invest, it can build real links for its own companies to tap into the growth of these markets. India this year will grow hopefully at 7.5 to 8%, and China is growing. China is, of course, a much larger economy, so China's growth, even if it's a little less in percentage terms, is still very large. And I think Russia can act as one of the engines to fuel the growth of these two huge economies. Public-private partnerships can be a wonderful model of growth, but there's some fundamental conditions that have to be met before that happens. The first is clear rules of the game. The second is a clear sense of what each party brings to the table. The third is appropriate financing structures for these models, because normally these are large infrastructure projects where the public-private sectors can cooperate and collaborate. And the financing has to be cheap enough to allow real growth in this sector, because huge amounts of capital need to be brought in. The world is at a very precarious moment, both in terms of geopolitics, climate change, human migration. I think if we don't act as a global society to address these problems, I think the problems we will face in 30 years will be much more significant. So education is critical, the development of our human capital as a planet. We're going to add 2.5 billion people on the planet in the next 30 years. We need to educate them, to feed them, to house them. Our current models consume too much of the natural resources of the planet and create too much economic and environmental damage. We need to do something about that. And I think it's not a matter of Russia, it's not a matter of India or China or the US. It's a matter of us as a human community on the planet actually getting together and trying to figure out how do we solve these things at scale.